There was a time when being busy meant there was simply too much to do. Now, being busy can feel like a sign that our lives are going well. We tell people we're busy almost automatically and sometimes with a strange sense of satisfaction. We fill our calendars, answer messages late into the evening, squeeze another task into the space between two others, and somehow the lack of time itself begins to feel valuable. But being busy and being productive are not the same thing. And being needed is not the same thing as being valuable. Yet, somehow having no time left has become something we can be proud of. Think about how often we use the word busy when someone asks us how life is going. It can mean that we have our hands full, that we are juggling too many things, or simply that there is no time to catch our breath. But sometimes it doesn't even sound like a complaint. It sounds like an answer we're quite happy to give. Even when we're tired, being busy can make life feel as though it is moving. And perhaps that's why saying I'm busy can feel more satisfying than saying I have nothing much going on. The strange part is that we rarely stop to ask what all that activity is actually adding up to. We seem to have developed a habit of treating an occupied life as a fuller one, without necessarily knowing what makes it full. So when did simply having too much to do become something worth signaling? For a long time, the opposite was true. Having enough wealth and status to not have to work was itself a sign of privilege. Leisure meant you had the freedom to spend your time however you wanted, while work was something you did because you had to. But somewhere along the way, that signal began to reverse. Today, having no time can suggest that we are important. A full calendar can imply that there are opportunities waiting for us, people depending on us, and demands on our time because we are in demand. Research has even found that people tend to perceive busy, overworked people as higher in status, partly because busyness makes them appear competent, ambitious, and in demand. In other words, scarcity of time can make a person seem more valuable. And perhaps that's why saying I'm busy can feel like more than a description of our day. Without quite saying it, we may also be saying, my time is valuable because other people want it. Which raises a more personal question. What happens when we start using busyness to measure ourselves? And if other people read busyness as a sign of importance, it is not difficult to start reading it that way ourselves. Being busy can become a quiet way of reassuring ourselves that we are doing something with our lives. We are working towards something. We are needed. We are not standing still. The problem is that busyness can give us that feeling, without necessarily giving us the thing we are supposed to be measuring. Being productive means that something was accomplished. Being busy only tells us that our time was occupied. The two can overlap, but they don't have to. We can spend an entire day moving from one task to another and still have very little to show for it. We can spend an hour thinking carefully about one difficult problem and have done something far more valuable. Yet the first day can feel more satisfying simply because it was full. At some point, the activity itself can start to feel like proof that we are doing enough. And perhaps this is why having nothing to do can feel strangely uncomfortable. When there is no deadline waiting, no message to answer, no meeting to attend, there is suddenly nothing outside us telling us that we are making progress. We have time, but instead of enjoying it, we can start wondering whether we should be doing something with it. Even things we normally enjoy can begin to feel unearned. We sit down to watch something, read a book, go for a walk, and somewhere in the back of our mind is the thought that there is probably something more useful we could be doing. Rest starts to feel like something we have to justify. What psychologists call leisure guilt suggests that this isn't simply a matter of having too much work. We can feel guilty even while doing something we enjoy, because a part of us is still thinking about what we should be doing instead. And once that happens, even rest can start to feel like something we haven't earned, which makes the problem a little more uncomfortable. Perhaps we don't only struggle to find time to rest, we can become uncomfortable with the absence of evidence that we're doing enough. And modern life gives us very little chance to forget that we could always be doing more. There is always another message to answer, another task to finish, another goal to work towards. Even the things we once did simply because we enjoyed them can now become projects, routines, challenges, or something that might eventually become useful. We can track how much we exercise, how much we read, how many hours we work, how much we accomplish. We can even turn our hobbies into side projects and our free time into something we can improve. None of this is necessarily bad. Having goals can give our lives direction, and being productive can be deeply satisfying. But somewhere along the way, the boundary between doing something because it matters to us and doing something because it proves that we're moving forward can become difficult to see. And perhaps that's why busyness fits so comfortably into modern life. It gives us an almost endless supply of ways to feel that we're doing something with our time. Perhaps that's why, when we finally get a free day, we don't always know what to do with it. We make plans for it, fill it with errands, find something to organize, or tell ourselves we'll use the time well. And if nothing particularly productive happens, the day can feel strangely wasted. But imagine the opposite for a moment. Imagine having nothing you need to prove with your time. No one is waiting for an answer. Nothing needs to be crossed off a list. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to become by the end of the day. Would that feel like freedom, or would it make you uncomfortable? Maybe that's the more uncomfortable thing about being busy. We have become so accustomed to measuring a good day by what happened during it, that an uneventful day can feel like a day that didn't count. But a life doesn't necessarily become fuller because we manage to fit more into it. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't finding more time. It's being able to have some of it without needing to do anything with it.